Good morning children, we are back again with the politics topic, key elements of democracy. So, you had already learned what is democracy, then what are non-democratic forms of government, then you learned why democracy is superior. We also dealt with some key elements of democracy. So, in this chapter you are going to deal with what is apartheid system, then what are the means and when it existed, what it means and when it existed, what is the meaning of apartheid, where it existed and what you mean by apartheid system. So, apartheid system means it is a system of segregating people on the basis of race or color, and South Africa is a country where apartheid system was in practice few years ago. See, in South Africa there were people who were divided into on the basis of different colors. There were white colored people, then there were blacks, then there were Indians, and there were mixed colored races. So, these white people were people who came from Europe for the purpose of trade to South Africa. So, they came there, they forcibly they settled there, and here staying there itself they started a rule or a system of rule, or they became the local rulers there. They started a system of rule which you call as the apartheid system. So, they began to segregate people on the basis of color, and this black people, they were majority, or 3/4 of the people who lived in Africa were blacks. They were the natives of Africa. Whites were minority in number. Even though they were minority, they took over the rule and they became the local rulers. So, what happened, or what they were, or how they began to segregate the black people on the basis of color. See, everywhere in all walks of life they used to segregate, or they used to separate the blacks. Means the non-whites, they did not have the right to vote. Segregation done on all walks of life included, they were not given the right to vote. Then they were restricted from living in an area where the whites lived. Then ambulances were there, where white people ambulance had or they were well equipped, whereas the black people they had ambulances separately. Then bus stops were entirely different for blacks and the whites. They could not go to the churches where the white people went. Then they were not also allowed to form associations. So, in all walks of life, already told, in all walks of life they were being segregated. And see, even the living conditions were also entirely different related to the blacks and the whites. Now, we will move on to a story of Hector Peterson, which you will be dealing with in your textbook. And see here, Hector Peterson, he was a black person. He and his classmates, you will be learning what he and his classmates did in school. So, he lived in a township of Southwestern Township. That was a township, Southwestern Township. It was a township that was meant for the blacks to live. And see, going to school, he and his classmates boycotted learning the African languages that were being taught in school. And see, this African language, it was made compulsory that the African language that was taught in the school was a language that was used by the whites. Therefore, it was made compulsory, and this language was made compulsory for all the students, either it may be blacks or whites, they had to learn it. So, Hector and his classmates boycotted this language, and they wanted to learn Zulu, which was their own common language. So, they began to protest against the white, and see, this protest began to get intensified, that the South African police started to beat them harshly, and in the end what happened is that Hector became a victim and he was killed, and this was on 16th June 1976. So, after this incident, see, a new party or an association was formed, which was called as the African National Congress, who took over or they started the struggle against this apartheid system, and the leader of this apartheid system was Nelson Mandela. So, he formed an association, he formed a party which was called as the African National Congress, which was mainly meant for fighting against the system of apartheid. And here also the struggle got intensified. As day passed by, as years passed by, this struggle got intensified, and they fought, they had to fight for several years in order to abolish, or in order to get this apartheid system abolished. And finally, this apartheid system was abolished in the year 1994, and South Africa became an entirely independent or democratic country in which people of all races were being considered equals. Now there is no apartheid system which exists here, and here all people, whether living or any community or any color, either they may be blacks or whites or Indians or colored races, all are treated equal. They are all treated equally. Apartheid system was totally abolished. In India, there is a fixed period for government, and see what happened is that these Africans, and that means this black people and the white people sat together, they began to or they were able to forgive each other whatever mistakes they had committed, and they sat together, they framed rules and regulations for themselves, and they have one of the finest constitutions in the world. So, that is related to the apartheid system. And in India, we have a fixed period for the government. That means you have already learned it is elected for a period of 5 years, and people participate in the system of electing representatives through a process called secret ballot system or election. And the people also take interest in the working of the government. They take too much interest in the working of the government. They get opportunities to criticize the government. See, they can express their views either through holding dharnas or making campaigns or associations or strikes or signature campaigns. So, all these are the ways by which people can express their views. And then they can also form associations, they can form social movements also. Then the government also find out a number of means in order to resolve their conflicts also. The conflicts may arise either maybe between states or between people or between religious groups or maybe among people itself. So, government has made a lot of, it has framed rules and regulations in order to overcome such conflicts. So, equality and justice are also the key elements what you have learned in the previous class related to democracy. Now, the practice of untouchability was totally abandoned by law. Then child labor, then status were given, equal opportunities were given to girls and women. So, all these are the things that you learn under, or the main points that you learn under the key elements of democracy. So, to conclude with this chapter, when you end this chapter, you should know that all people are equal in India, then there is justice provided to all, then equal status is given to all religions, to whatever religion a person may belong to, each and every person is treated equally. Then equal chances are given to each and every person, it may be either in the field of education or religion or wherever it may be, equal opportunities are provided. Then abolition of untouchability. Untouchability is something or a practice that had been existed years before, and this practice was totally abandoned. So, this is related to this chapter. Hope you understood. Thank you.